You are listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast exploring scripture with Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb and Dr. Fredrick J. Long. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Proof Text. I'm Michael Halcomb and I'm here with Fred Long, and this is a GrammarPoint episode. And in this episode, we're continuing to discuss verbs. I believe this is part 6. And I think in this episode, we're going to talk about the concept known as tense. We'll also talk a little bit about time. So, Fred, as we get started, when I discuss tense, in Greek, I use the term chronos. And if I'm talking about time, I'll often use the term keros. So I don't know if that's helpful for people listening, but just to put that out there on the table, tense is chronos. So share with us a little bit about your thoughts on time, or tense, rather.
Tense, yeah. Well, languages tend to be either mood-centric, aspect-centric, or time-centric. And we'll get to aspect next time, but Greek has been often taught as time-centric. And so we think of past, present, future times. And then we have tenses that we associate with those times. But probably Greek is aspectual, and we should teach it differently. And that can be confusing for students because we present the verbs in terms of tense, and then we often think of it in terms of time, but that's probably a bit of a mistake to do so. But when I think of tense, we think of present, imperfect, aorist, perfect, pluperfect tenses. There's also a future perfect, which is very, very rare. But these are tenses, and then we present endings for these tenses. So
tense is just a grammatical label. It isn't a real thing, right? It's just a label.
Yes.
This is different than time, right? Like, or as we talked about aspect, I kind of take the view that there is time, certainly in the indicative mood in Greek, and I believe there's aspect as well. But tense is different. Tense is the sort of meta-linguistic term that we use to talk about what's going on within time.
Yeah, how we just decide to construe something. So time, past, present, and future. But then how do we understand the Greek verb to be relating to those actual time perspectives would then be, what we call verbal tense. And but what gets confusing is that Greek actually has 5 ways to represent past time in the construal.
Right.
What are those? Imperfect tense, aorist tense, perfect tense, pluperfect tense, and the historic use of the present tense. So this can become confusing, right? Because you have 5 different tenses that can refer to
Can you
past
say those
time.
again? Can you say those again? I lost you for a second. I don't know if other people lost you, but just in case we all lost
Imperfect.
Can you say those one more time?
So the Greek tenses that can refer to events happening in the past are the imperfect tense, perfect tense, aorist tense, pluperfect tense, I did those out of order, and historic use of the present tense. In other words, sometimes the present tense is used in narratives of the past, in the past time frame, to refer to something that occurred in the past, in the past time. So Greek has 5 ways: imperfect, aorist, perfect, pluperfect, and historic use of the present tense. So this can be confusing until we try to discern what are the different nuances. Like, why would an author choose of these 5 options to refer to past in a past event? why would the author choose one as
Yeah.
opposed to the other? It's a matter of construal for contextual effect, for meaning in the context. Yeah.
And we'll discuss each of these tenses in Greek in due course with subsequent episodes.
And we'll have to we'll have to discern the verbal, because the distinction in them is in the verbal aspect.
Yeah. So we'll parse that out as we go along, but in this one we just wanted to simply talk about tense and time, where tense is the grammatical label of what's happening in time.
Helpful.
Right? So I think that's all we have. Is that all you have?
Yeah, I just start repeating myself. So again, you got past. So when we look at reality, things happened in either the past, present, or future, but Greek authors had choices of different verb tenses to construe things, particularly in the past tense. But when it came to the present, you mainly have one, although you start to get some maybe uses of like the imperfect. We saw that, the conative imperfect. I could be wanting, I wish I could be doing something now, but I can't in the present. But that's all language in use. But we'll talk about those as we get to these other tenses and talk about them in particular.
All right. If you're listening or watching and you love the Proof Text podcast, go ahead and like.
I love it. Do you love it?
Or I love it. Hit the subscribe button, and the best of all, share this with other folks. So, thanks for listening. We hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.